Alright, now everyone has their own way of playing Genshin. Some might just play the game for fun and just hop on for an hour or two to pass some time, and others might try hard and crunch numbers to increase their character's damage like it's their full-time job. Now, to each their own, but in this video, I'll be talking about the worst type of Genshin players that I've personally come across, so if you're one of the types of people I talk about in this video, no shade, but I hate you. Now, the pro player has a pretty high scope of knowledge about the game, but only for the characters they level up. Since they only have the highest damage dealing characters in the game, all they do is flex their high numbers and spend their resin farming artifacts to increase their crit rate by like 2%. Some of these guys are really annoying, especially if you're in some Genshin servers, because they'll join voice chats, instantly start sharing their screen, and tell everyone to join their stream to flex how much damage they do. If they see no one's watching their stream, they'll just say every couple minutes, "Yo guys, join my stream, look at this," and then if no one joins, they'll leave and go to a different voice channel to flex on more people. Now, I've met one of these people that just play for fun randomly in the co-op menu, but they basically ask me for my help with bosses and domains because they say they're having a hard time. So I look at their builds to find out what the problem is, only to find that they completely have the wrong artifacts on every single character they play. The problem is, when I offer to help them change their artifacts, they'll say they know what they're doing with their characters and don't need my help with artifacts because they already know that Diluc's best build is 2-piece Wanderers and 2-piece Bloodstained. This type of player also thinks that the only way to have fun in the game is by not spending your time looking at guides to build your characters and just tell you to stop tryharding because you know more about the game. Now, I'm going to preface this section by saying that most of the whales that I've met are not like this. This is just the worst type I've personally seen and doesn't classify whales as a whole. Alright, now that that's out of the way, the first type I'm going to be talking about essentially gets surprised that some people don't have a 5-star character C6'd or like an R5 weapon. For example, if you ask what weapon you should use in your Diluc, they'll say like, "Oh, you should use your R5 Wolf's Gravestone because everyone has one of them." Or you can also use like your Red Horn Stone Thresher or something. But the worst of the worst will also make fun of you for not having spent as much money as they have and flex how much money they've spent in the game to like free-to-play players or something. Another thing that annoys me is that I've seen some whales that literally don't know how to play the game despite having literally every character C6 and so many R5 5-star weapons. Some of them just don't know anything about artifacts, so even with the character they spent $1,000 on and the weapon they probably spent another $500 on, they don't deal any damage. So personally, I would say if you want to spend real life money on the game, then I'd recommend learning how to play the game first. Now, they say they're free to play, but buy the battle pass and welcome. They'll flame anyone that spends any sort of money on the game, but when it comes to them spending money for a character they like, they'll justify it by saying, "Well, I don't spend as much money as whales, so I'm still technically free to play." If you're free to play, that's fine. It's just like, don't be a dick to people that spend money just because you can't afford it. I mean, just because you don't like spending money in games. Alright, there's some people who try out the game and say it's not their cup of tea, which is fair, but there are also some other people that say they don't play just because it's a gacha game. They think that you like can't even play the game without spending money, so they shit talk everyone that plays Genshin, but then something or someone changes their mind, so they'll try it out, and then they end up no-lifing the game for months, and before you know it, they're a whale. It's fine if you're just starting and don't know anything about the game, but if you still don't know what you're doing at AR55, then I don't know what to tell you. This is sort of similar to the I play for fun type of player, but I've met the prime example through Genshin Co-op, and he was AR55, one level under me. This guy made Seiun, but the difference was he had absolutely no idea what artifacts were. He had an HP Sands, a defense goblet, and an attack circlet, which if you know about artifacts, then you can probably see where the problem is. All of those artifacts are like wrong. Since his artifacts were really bad, he couldn't even do domains or bosses on his own and kept asking me for help every single day, which got sort of annoying. Okay, so this is actually the type of player I hate the most. The stat flexer is a late game player who has nothing to do, so they join other people's worlds and just flex their stats. I'm gonna be honest when I say this happened to me recently with a guy who tried to flex his Ayato stats on me because my Ayato was on my profile and I assumed he looked at it and went, "Lol, my crit rate to crit damage is better than his." So I'm gonna join his world and tell him that because my dick's small. He had 20 more crit damage, which I guess made him think that he had a better Ayato, but I had Ayato C1, 3,000 more health, 200 more attack, and a better team. Since then, he's been living in my head rent-free, and I made this entire video to shit-talk him, so fuck you. Basically, the theory crafter. Now, theory crafting isn't bad, but if I'm going to be honest, if you meet one of these people, I highly recommend not asking them for their help. If you ask them what character is best for like a free-to-play player, they'll say something like Xiangling because of her pyronatal scaling and pyro application, with Xingqiu applying Hydra to get 1.5 times vaporized, with Bennett applying a damage boost scaled off his base attack, and Sucrose scaling off Elemental Mastery with her Verdescent Veneer swirling pyro, giving throwing tails to Xiangling, allowing her to vaporize But yeah, it can get a little annoying. Again, I've met a lot of theory crafters, and like I said with whales, most of them that I've met have actually been really nice. I've probably only met around 3 people who actually do this, so if there are any nice theory crafters out there, we're still cool, right? But back to hating these 3 people. The most annoying part about some theory crafters is how they'll basically flame you if you say you main a character that isn't an S or an SS tier in their tier list. In a Genshin server I'm in, someone asked this group of theory crafters for help building their Razor, and they basically just said, you shouldn't play Razor, just play a better character that does more damage and has a higher scaling or some shit, and then never help them. So I do love theory crafters because they do provide a lot of information about the game for the community, but it's kind of cringe to tell people to only play certain characters because their percentages and their numbers are higher. Well, anyways, those are the only ones I can think of. There are probably worse types of people that play the game, but basically the conclusion I've come to is if you enjoy playing the game a certain way, go ahead, but don't force it onto other people. If you do, I'll probably hunt you down and delete your Genshin account. But aside from that, thanks for watching. I upload every Saturday, so make sure to sub. It really helps me out. Another thing is, I'm gonna start streaming on Twitch, and I'm actually probably live right now, so the link's gonna be in the description. Anyways, that's it, and yeah, goodbye.